Hey everyone, welcome back. Thank you for taking the time to join me with this daily GameStop technical analysis and options chain overview. We're up 1.5% during the day and another 1% in our after hour session. Very spicy, tapping that 28 mark, which is fantastic. Yesterday, we talked about the invalidation of our 4-hour bearish order block, converting it into a bullish breaker block, which we also seen previously on our 1 day, right? We seen that technical breakdown here where we invalidated, retest to activate, and then expanded upwards to our current spot, at which point, well, it looks like we're going to do it all over again, and that expansion has started here this evening, which is quite nice. Let's see it continue into our ex-dividend this Friday. Of course, that means you'll need to have all your shares purchased tomorrow, Thursday, could be today, depending on when you're watching this. And we get that distribution next week on Tuesday to start. Just about to fill the upper band of the 1 day gap. Typically, we would expect rejection at this point, but again, it's not just technically speaking because we have the corporate catalyst here. We also have our options chain, which is totally stacked. And so we could, break through it, and now it becomes support instead of the expected resistance, right? On that note, there's going to be a secondary gap in the mid 29s, and then the same thing, just very small gaps here at that 33 level that we could potentially look for if we clear the first gap, right, on that 1 day chart, or even the 4-hour chart that it exists there. The gaps were created on the 1 day, though, if you're trying to map them out yourself. With that being said, on the 15-minute chart, we should kind of be a little bit more zoomed in to start, and then we can get that larger time frame. We have an order block formed off of the strength this evening on that break of structure, which is great. We had the similar thing. I guess maybe we can see it on the 30-minute. This morning here off the sell side liquidity, right here. Now it's moved up, right? But this is how it works off of that market structure shift here. Even again, and it's just the same pattern repeating over and over, which is fine. It can staircase up. We love to see it. And so this is really nice just to show strength. The sell side liquidity is respecting itself, and we have broken through our buy side liquidity. Yesterday, we went through this a little bit more in depth to teach you about it, just so you become more familiar with the definitions I'm using. If you missed it, check it out. And it was a little bit of a longer video. I want to keep today a little bit shorter. So things looking really good on the shorter time frames for us, which is nice. And the 1-hour session is basically the same structure. And you see that order block here on the larger time frame that I was talking about earlier from yesterday, which is nice off of this break of structure this morning, right? So the same thing that we've seen, kind of yesterday afternoon and this morning, we're seeing this afternoon and this evening on the shorter time frame, which is nice. We also talked about how the buy side liquidity is going to have fresh buy orders above it. It's going to have short side stop losses above it, which is going to result in the displacement upwards, which again, we're seeing, which is quite nice. Moving out from that to our 4-hour. Again, that's kind of what we already talked about with the bullish breaker block from yesterday being formed and activated here with that expansion upwards, which is nice. Market structure shift from last week's high, right? Last Monday was our high, and kind of retesting and rejecting that for the majority of the week, but now finally breaking through, which is quite nice. And then we can get into our Roaring Kitty charts. There's really not much to talk about day to day here. The same thing that we're watching for yesterday, we continue to do today. The 4-hour PMO reversed bearish. I'd like to see this swing back up, and if it does, then we can take a breath of relief as the 1 day is in less danger of reversing back on itself, right? We want to see continued divergence here. We want to see the averages trend above the signal. like we are here, and we don't want them to swing back, right? We want to really avoid that. And to do that, we're going to need that 4-hour to swing back in our favor, right? So kind of chilling there. We see the I like to look at GameStop in comparison to the broader market. Like when you from GameStop's bottom trend, this is going to depend as to where you're comparing the two, obviously, because some days GameStop trades at a premium to the market, other days, at a discount. So I like to base that off of GameStop being at its bottom trend line, right? On that note, we're trading at a bit of a premium, right? A 19% premium here to the broader market. So just be aware of where we're at within that story. The MACD is positive here again for the third day in a row on the 1 day, which is nice. So continued momentum coming our way through following days and potentially weeks. On that note, we are tracking our RSI uptrend. It respects, and we are re-challenging the 70 mark here. We all know what happens when we break above 70. However, we could definitely retest trend a couple times before that really breaks out. So if we do break down, something that we're looking to have hold, right? And what else do we have here? Yeah, that's kind of it. We also have a warrant case study on Superstock going through other companies that had warrants. I think GameStop is unique. We can potentially find clues from these other companies and stories. However, the situations are far from identical. We ourselves did one with ENVX, if you're interested in that. Personally, I think GameStop continues to trend upwards until we clear our warrant strike price. Of course, we are still waiting for the terms and conditions, at which point, if there's an early expiry clause based on price, that's what we're looking for. So get up to around that price, at which point people are going to start exercising their warrants because of that early expiry, right? We're not going to be able to hold them for a whole year. This kind of lets the shorts off the chain so the squeeze doesn't last forever, but that's okay because we're going to do it again. And at which point I would expect a price retracement because of the dilution. However, we'll come back again, and it is what it is. So that's just my outlook on everything. I do think that we trend above 32. We have a couple feedback loops in play currently. The bond arbitrage players need to rebalance their hedge as we climb higher. They have their own clause. I think it's like 37 for 20 days. So if we get up there, things get really, really spicy as well. And then, of course, the warrant deliverability hedge, I think, is still kind of building for us here. So that's kind of a bullish feedback loop, if you will, right? And then, of course, all the retail pressure on top of it. And so a unique situation. You hear people say, "Oh, it's GameStop's just like Tesla, or it's just like this." Well, no, it's just like GameStop, and that's better, right? That is far better. Aside from that, our borrow rate is flat. Shares to borrow is down, and we can get into the options chain here. Max Payne chilling. Yeah, I would assume that this moves up to close out the week. I mean, we're 28, and this is 25.50, so get this up to 26, maybe 26.50. If we trend at a massive premium to Max Payne, it's when things get a little interesting. There's a potential hedge flip coming that someone's privy to. Plus 25% on the weeklies over Max Payne. Are you sure what's going on here, right? So there's something suspect going on there. Aside from that, you expect them to walk up Max Payne, so you never really get that disparage between the two. Oakley dokley. So our put call ratio is still pretty bullish. Even more calls in the money today. And again, it's going to be even more so tomorrow if we can open up and hold 28 through the day and to close the week. Getting into the weeks, there's not much new to talk about. Massive call wall at 30 across multiple expirations. It's going to act as a big old wall, but with the incremental support along the way, nice floors. Every time we get above one, acting what was resistance is now support. So I think, if we can hold 28, that's great to challenge 30. but more likely than not, we get slapped down to close the week below 30. However, that positive feedback loop could result in something quite magical if we do close above 30. Of course, someone can delta squeeze the chain if they've got enough money, buying just out of the money contracts in bulk. We've seen that happen before, and we all know what happened last time we ran on a Friday. Moving out, it is more of the same, right? Massive wall at 30 with some in the monies chilling. These 30s are, of course, sold contracts. People sell a lot of covered calls on Gamestop. So we're basically waiting for the call sellers to roll those out, right? Roll our ceiling up for us, please and thank you. You're going to lose your shares if you don't. But, I mean, that's the nature of the beast. People are picking up pennies in front of a steamroller, basically. And then GameStop has a move, and now those contracts that you were selling are negative thousands of percent, and you're not buying them back, obviously. So you're just like, okay, I'm waiting, right? I've been there, right? So personally, I'm not selling cover calls anymore since the IV is so low post bonds. It's been absolutely crushed. Maybe it comes back and we can reassess in the future, but currently not doing any of that. So this pattern is going to persist all the way into January next quarter. A lot of 60s today. Hoo-wee. But the 30s, right? So if we can at any point get above 30, it's going to be really nice, and that can become a hard floor moving forward, at least until the chain falls off, if it does. Now, we'd like people to reapply that pressure, just like we would, right? In a future cycle, or maybe just roll it out, and we can continue the current cycle. But I don't know. I don't control the market's liquidity. I can just kind of look at it and decide for myself what's happening on the day-to-day. And then into the 2027s, a lot of 35s here, chilling. People starting to build around this. And again, just making sure that this stays on chain, right? The volume on chain, whether sold and bought, basically is the same thing, but on chain is important. Showing that interest in the stock is really good. So that's the options chain for us. Looking for something to break us above 30. It could be that feedback loop. It could be something that we don't really know about yet. And mostly taking it day by day into next week when we get our warrants on Tuesday. Hopefully those hit everyone's accounts. And, again, hopefully the price trends above that warrant strike price. We get the clauses of it, or like the terms and conditions. And we understand now whether we're allowed to just hold them and apply more pressure, or if we really do need to exercise them accordingly above a specific price, right? Which I fully suspect will be the case. However, we're going to have to wait a couple more days to find out. So thank you all so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon in the next. IV remains suppressed. I think we're 11 percentile. Nothing really there. All the data just remains the same. So if there's anything new, of course, I'm going to bring that up as well. And yeah, good luck tomorrow or today, whenever you're watching this, every day, really. And leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.